and Merry Christmas. Let's try that again. Half of you are still taking great Instagram photos. Merry Christmas. My name is Kyle, and I just want to take a moment to welcome you. Whether you're from near or far, whether you're young or old, whether this is part of your church family or you were drugged here by biological family, we are just glad that you are here. You see, we feel like this is a family tradition for us. It's not just because me and my biological family do this, but part of a church family. And you may say, well, why do you call yourself a family? I said, because our family, like every other family, is dysfunctional. We're a bunch of imperfect people held together by the perfect love of Jesus. And tonight we celebrate the birth of that perfect love as we celebrate Christmas together. Now, kids, we are so glad you are here. Most of you are used to having a ton of fun right down that hall. But tonight, I need your help to tell the Christmas story. So when you came in those bags you received, you might have gotten a little light. Can you just grab that light and just hold it up so I know you've got it? Yeah, I hear the crinkling. I see it. Now, I need your help because our story is filled with darkness. And so, when I say the word light, I need you to hold up your light. Can we practice it? So put them down. You can cover it up. And when I say light, I need you to go 1,000 up and down. Okay, we're going to have to do better than that because I know there's more lights. I know there's more kids. When I say light, let me see it. Light. Yes. Down. And when I say the other special word, Jesus, I want you to raise it and then put it back down. Let's try it again. Light. Jesus. I never thought Christmas would be like Simon Says, but here we go. Our story starts when I was in 5th grade. When I was in 5th grade, my best friend, Tim Greer, invited me and some friends over for a sleepover. Now, I'd been in a sleepover at a friend's house, but I'd never have a group sleepover party. We had pizza, we jumped on the trampoline, we had Nerf wars until we were told to go to bed. But once it was time to go to bed, that's when I knew the fun would start. Because the lights would be turned off, the parents would go all the way down the hall and into the master bedroom, and with no lights and no parents, there was no rules. So the first thing that happened when the lights went low, I went and tried to sneak over into the kitchen to get some Coke because my parents would never let me have soda that late at night. And when I was walking over there almost to the kitchen, I hear, Kyle? And I'm like, was it the voice of God? No, it was Mr. Greer. It was Tim's dad. Somehow he knew and he caught me. Like, how did he do that? All right, I'm not going there again. So I went back in my bed. I'm like, but he's not going to catch me. It is so dark. There's no light. All right, kids, let's try that again. There's no light. There we go. And this time I'm going to pull a prank on one of my friends in the sleeping bag next to me, and he's never going to catch me. And so as I go and I roll out, and all of a sudden I'm right about to spring the prank, and I hear, Kyle? Is it the voice of God? No, it's still Mr. Greer. I'm like, how does he know what's going on? He's all the way down the hall. It's pitch black. How does he know? I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to be stealthier. This time I'm just going to whisper and tell some jokes that 5th grade boys probably shouldn't be telling. And right as I start to get there, before I get to the punchline, I hear, Kyle! And I'm like, how did he know? How did he hear me all the way down there? And that's when I realized he was not all the way down in the master bedroom. He was standing right there in the room with us, but I couldn't see it because we were in the darkness. Because we were in the darkness, we couldn't see his presence there with us. The only way we could see him is if we saw him with the light. You see, friends, this is like the Christmas story. Many of us live lives full of darkness, unable to see God when he's right next to us. And so on Christmas, what he does is he takes a moment to light up the world so that we can see him. You see, think about what it's like to live in darkness. For some, it's scary. For some, you're trying to walk and you don't know which way to go. But as we live in darkness, what happens is we can't see God right in front of us. So he gives us these lights. These candles represent lights or gifts that God gives in this season of Christmas, the month before that we know as Advent. Anyone here excited about opening presents today or tomorrow? Yeah? Okay. Love that. What God does is he gives us presents through the whole month. And let me tell you about these. Each one of these candles represent a present that God gives us. You see, the first week of Advent, the first week in December, we celebrate hope. Now, what is hope like? I want you to imagine hopelessness. You are trapped in a cave and it's dark. You can't see anything. You can't see your hand in front of your face. And no matter how much you walk around, you feel lost. And right as that moment where you feel like, I'm never gonna get out of here, after all of your wandering, at the end, at a very, very small, at a very, very, very long way where you see this very small light. All right, kids, we're getting there. Here we go. And that light gives hope that says, even though I'm in darkness, I'm gonna get out. You see, God gives the gift of hope to his people when he says, things are not as they should be, but they're gonna get better. You see, 700 years before Jesus was born, Jesus' people, the Israelites, they were living in darkness. They had no light. And so God wanted to give them hope, so they sent them a messenger. This messenger's name was Isaiah. And to these people who were in darkness, Isaiah said this. He said, the people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. See, this first light was hope. And it says, when you are stuck, there's a way out because God's going to make a way. It may be a while, but have hope. And the light is what gives us hope and direction. But God doesn't end there. You know, the second week, the second candle, it represents peace, the gift of God giving us peace. Now, some of you may know that sometimes it's hard to find peace. Kids, any of you ever fight with your brother or your sister? Yeah, and I know, it's their fault. I know. All right, if you don't laugh, this is gonna be a long story. Here we go. Sometimes families fight, sometimes nations fight. And what happens is when we hurt each other, it fills our hearts and our minds with darkness. And when we're filled with that darkness, we can't see the love of Jesus. And so what God does is he gives us this light of peace. And he tells us how the peace will come. That same prophet Isaiah, 700 years before Jesus is born, he says it this way. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. He will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. What he's saying is that humans have a history of fighting with each other, and no matter how hard we try, we sometimes just can't make peace. And so he's gonna send a peacemaker to make peace between humans, but also to make peace between humans and God. And that is one of the gifts that he gives us. But there's two more as we wait. This third one is the gift of joy. How many of you love joy? Anybody? How many of you are gonna be filled with joy when you open your presents tomorrow? Yes, I know it. I love opening gifts. And I love when there's so many, you just open up and it's what's next? And you open up and it's what's next? And you open up and it's what's next? But can I tell you, I have 41 years of opening Christmas presents, and not a single one of them have given me lasting joy. They may be fun for an hour, for a day, for a week, and for a really good one, maybe a year, but they never bring me total joy. Why? You see, God gives us the gift of joy because he knows that nothing else we do will totally give it to us. No gift, no accomplishment, no relationship. Nothing gives our heart fullness of joy. Why? Because our hearts were created by him. Our hearts were created by a creator. And the only one who can fill the heart that he created is God himself. And we can fill it with as much stuff as we want. And we try hard at Christmas to fill ourselves with stuff other than him. But we realize it's empty and there's darkness. but he's the one who shines the light of joy, because that light begins in our hearts and moves from the inside out. But it wasn't just that. He doesn't just give hope, peace, and joy. He also lights our life with love. Love is a funny word. I don't know how to define it. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I love pizza and I love people. Is that the same? Sometimes I don't know how to define love, but I know what it feels like. Sometimes love is when you feel that comfortable snuggle from someone you love when you feel cold and alone. Sometimes love feels like when you feel unseen and powerless. Someone who says, I see you just as you are, good and bad. And knowing all of you doesn't change. I still love you. But let me just tell you this, friends. What I do know about love is not a feeling. Love is a commitment, a covenant, a relationship. And so what God doesn't just say, I love you, he shows that he loves you. You see, he shows his love. He said it this way. He said that God loved the world so much that he gave a gift, his one and only son. And whoever believes in him will not perish, but will have life forever. You see, friends, some of you are going to give and receive gifts tomorrow. As we're celebrating Christmas, we know that gift giving is an action of love. And we celebrate the greatest gift that God has ever given is his own son, Jesus. You see, it wasn't just enough for him to give us hope. It wasn't just enough for him to give us peace or joy or love. What he wanted to do is he wanted to come and he wanted to be with us. And so with that, we light the Christ candle, which symbolizes Jesus coming and lighting our world. Let's try that again. The Christ candle symbolizes Jesus lighting our world. Here's what happened 2,000 years ago. God said that I love you so much that I want to be as close to you as possible. I want to walk alongside of you, laugh with you, cry with you, and show you the way. And so one day to his followers, Jesus said this. He says, I am the light of the world. I light your heart from the inside out. He lights your path when you don't know the next step to take. But also his light is like a fire that spreads. Because first he told them that he's the light of the world. And then one day as he has a group of followers, he leans in and he tells them something that would not make sense, something that would boggle their mind, something that wouldn't quite compute. He'd look at them and say, y'all, you guys, you are the light of the world. Which is confusing because humans, we live in so much darkness and confusion. So many of us, we realize there's darkness in our heart, there's darkness in our world, and sometimes the darkness seems so great we can't see the light. But what Jesus came to do was not just to be close to you. It was not just to live in your heart. It was to save you from your sin, but also to spread that light to you so you can spread it to others. You see, we celebrate the lights that God has given us. But as he, the light of the world, says that you are the light, what he's done is he's sent you out. And even though there may be darkness, the darkness can never, ever overcome the light. The light will always be more powerful. And this is why I tell you, friends, Jesus wants to empower you to be and spread the light and spread these gifts of Christmas. Throughout this series, or throughout this month, if you're part of our church family, we talk about re-gifting. And re-gifting has a negative connotation, but we've been talking about how God has given us these gifts to give away to others. One of the gifts that God has given you to give away to others is the gift of joy from Christ to your heart. Kids, were any of you here this summer for our summer blast where we had over 200 kids and over 100 volunteers? Let me see your lights if you were there. You see what happened in that week? We saw your faces laugh and light up with joy, and your joy was contagious. And even old folks like me caught that joy, and it lit up my heart. because you received it from God to share with others. You were gifted joy, here we go. Yeah, joy, that's right. Life for us isn't always full of bright light. Sometimes there's darkness. Sometimes that darkness makes us feel trapped and hopeless. This year, you sent me as your pastor to Ghana, West Africa, to meet hundreds of kids who had no food, no water, no education, no basic health care. And you chose to sponsor, to be chosen by 250 of them. And when I was there, I saw their faces when they got to pick you as a sponsor, and you went and they picked you and you came back. And when you saw who picked you, what you saw was hope had spread, because they no longer had no hope with no future. They experienced the light of hope through your generosity. But you said, I'm not going to stop there. You said, I'm going to continue to spread the light and give in this Christmas season. You see, I got to visit a clinic while I was there, and I was afraid because the clinic wasn't quite up to standards. And I said to World Vision, can we do anything? And they said, there's actually something we need more than that clinic. There are hundreds of people who have no access to any clinic, so will you partner with us to train and pay for healthcare workers to go to help pregnant moms, newborn babies with basic healthcare? So we had a goal this year. Last year we raised $25,000. This year our goal was to raise $50,000, and every dollar we had was going to be matched twice. So $150,000 would become $150,000. And as of this morning, we're at $64,000 raised to bring hope. You could clap for that, because you are the light of the world. And as we walk, I just wonder, what have been the dark moments where you felt like God was maybe hiding in the darkness the way my friend's dad was? What were the moments of mental, physical, relational darkness? And I wonder how God showed up for you. Maybe it was with a word, the way he showed up with a word through Isaiah. Maybe it was through a friend who came and reminded you that you're not alone. Maybe it's a way that only God could and I could never know, because he knows you that well. Maybe you received the light and love of Jesus that way. Or maybe you were able to share it. I think about the peace that Jesus brings. It's not just peace between humans, it's peace between us and God. You see, friends, let me tell you that before I was a follower of Jesus, that story that you heard about me making trouble was an everyday story for me. My life was full of darkness. My heart had rebellion and anger. I didn't trust God. I didn't trust anybody. But when I experienced the light of Jesus in my life, I had peace with God for the very first time. It was a peace that was so amazing, I wanted to share it with others. And one of the ways we celebrate having peace with God is by publicly showing our relationship with him in baptism. This year, as you can see, we had over 44 folks demonstrate that through baptism. And every story is beautiful, but one in particular. Between services, in one of our baptisms, there was a teenage girl who came up and said, "Can I be baptized between services?" We said, "Yeah, of course. Why?" She said, "Well, between services, because I'm embarrassed." We said, No. Why do you want to be baptized?" She told her story. She said she'd been a foster kid, in and out of homes, in and out of families. And at the age of 16, she'd had more than she could count. But the one that she was living with there, who was a member of this church, gave her love and peace in a way that she never could. And she realized that that love and that peace came from Jesus. And she wanted to declare that Jesus gives peace, not only with other humans, but he is the one who ultimately brings peace with God. On Christmas, we celebrate the love of Jesus. 2 weeks ago, I got an email from someone who said their This time last year, their life was full of darkness. They were estranged from their adult daughter. They had wounds from church and couldn't trust God. And honestly, that darkness didn't even love themselves. She talked about how God drew her, and through those doors, she experienced the love of people here in a small group through the power and presence of God. And now she says, I've received love from this church, and now I want to go and I want to give it back. I want to gift and share the light and love of Jesus with others. You see, friends, the story we tell is not just something that happened 2,000 years ago, but it's a miracle that we can experience every day. It's the God of the universe said, there will be no darkness that can separate us because my light is more powerful. There will be no distance because I will come close. There will be no power because I am the King of Kings that rule over sin and death and evil. He says, I will be the Prince of Peace who will make peace the way no one can. And I am the light of the world who will light you up from the inside out so that you can share it with others. And for the last 2,000 years, we've celebrated that as the light and love of God has spread from one person to another. So tonight we celebrate the light of the world and him inviting you to follow in his way, to receive that light and share it with others. Each of these folks in the corners will go ahead and light your candle as a symbol of Christ's light for you, and you are invited to share it as you accept his call to be the light of the world in the midst of darkness. Let's celebrate the light and love of Jesus this Christmas Eve.